Hey, I'm Paul Cheng. Right now, millions of drivers are watching videos telling them to pour a $1 bag of gray powder straight into their engine oil to make their cars last 500,000 miles. They tell you this cheap, slippery dust will coat your bearings and stop all friction forever. But if you actually do it, if you unscrew your oil cap and dump that raw, dry grit inside, your engine won't last 50 miles. The oil filter will choke, the bypass valve will slam open, and the block will starve to death. The crazy part? The science they're talking about is completely real. Dealerships and the massive oil additive brands know exactly what this compound is. It's a solid friction modifier that actually kept fighter planes in the air during World War II, even after their oil lines were completely shot out. But there is a massive engine-destroying difference between the raw internet hack you see online and the properly suspended liquid version sitting quietly on the shelf at your local parts store. And once you see exactly what it really does to the microscopic pitting inside your engine cylinders, well, you'll suddenly understand the 10,000-mile lie. Let's talk about the 10,000-mile oil change. The thick service manual sitting in your glove box right now probably says you can go a whole 10 grand between drain plugs. Some quick lube chains still push the 3,000-mile sticker, which is its own kind of profit trap, but the manufacturer's extended number? That one is dangerous. I remember pulling the valve cover off a 2018 crossover, only 60,000 miles on the odometer, and the oil looked like black cottage cheese, varnished, crusted, completely baked onto the camshafts. The owner had followed the dealer schedule perfectly. Actually, wait, let me be fair here. It's not that modern full synthetic oil can't physically last 10,000 miles in a pristine laboratory environment. It absolutely can. The problem is what happens in the real world during the first 3 seconds of your morning commute.
Most of the permanent damage happening to your car doesn't happen out on the highway, it happens right when you turn the key. When your engine sits cold overnight, all the liquid oil drains down away from the moving parts and pools in the pan. You twist the ignition, the metal surfaces start scraping against each other, completely dry, and the oil pump scrambles to push fluid back up to the top of the block. That brief grinding delay accounts for something like 75% of your total engine wear. You can almost hear it on a freezing morning, that harsh metallic ticking from the lifters before the oil pressure finally builds up. Every single time you start the car, microscopic flakes of metal are being shaved off your cylinder walls. And this is exactly where the $1 powder comes in, molybdenum sulfide, MO2. I used to believe chemical additives were just expensive snake oil pushed by guys in shiny suits on late-night television. Then I saw the teardown data. I was wrong, and I'll tell you why. This stuff isn't a detergent or a standard oil thickener. It is a solid boundary lubricant. Think of it like a microscopic deck of playing cards. When you press down on the deck and push, the cards slide over each other with almost zero resistance. That's exactly what this molecule does inside your engine. During World War II, aircraft mechanics would coat the internal parts of fighter engines with it. If a plane took anti-aircraft fire and the oil pan completely emptied out over the ocean, that baked-in layer of MO2 would stop the pistons from welding themselves to the block. It gave the pilot just enough time to find a runway. The engineering is beautiful. So some guy online figures out you can buy raw MS2 powder in bulk for practically nothing. He tells everyone to just dump a scoop straight into their filler neck. Here is the part they always leave out. Your engine oil filter is designed to catch particles that are around 20 microns in size. That raw powder, the dry granules are usually way bigger than that. You drop that stuff in there, and the moment you start the car, the oil pump shoves it all straight into the filter media. The filter instantly chokes, the pressure spikes, the bypass valve forces itself open to keep the engine from exploding, and now you're circulating unfiltered, gritty, abrasive oil through your entire block. So far, we're talking about a slow, silent drain on your wallet from daily wear and tear. But if you try this internet hack, you instantly graduate to a $4,000 junkyard motor swap. The real engineering secret isn't the raw powder,
It's the colloidal suspension, the major additive brands, the ones sitting right there in the aisle at any well-known parts retailer. They spend millions fracturing that molybdenum down to less than a single micron. They suspend it in liquid. It passes right through the tightest filter mesh like a ghost, bonding permanently to the microscopic valleys and scratches on your metal cylinder walls. When the liquid oil drains away at night, that slick gray film stays glued to the metal. The next morning, you zero dry start wear. The engine slips into motion silently. And it gets worse from here. If you drive anything with an engine, you're going to want to stick around. Random thought. I wonder how many people have traded in a perfectly good vehicle for a terrible loan rate just because their engine started ticking on cold mornings and the service writer told them it was the beginning of the end. A $20 can of properly suspended molybdenum probably would have quieted the whole thing down. But buying the right liquid suspension is only half the battle. Because if you pour this stuff into an engine that's already heavily burning oil, or if you mix it with the wrong API-rated synthetic, the chemical reaction that happens inside your crankcase is, well, it's exactly what the dealership hopes you'll do.
Let's look at what actually happens when you mix a solid suspension into modern synthetic oil. Picture the microscopic surface of your engine's crankshaft. To the naked eye, it looks like polished chrome, but under a microscope, it looks like a jagged mountain range of peaks and valleys. When your engine runs, those metal peaks smash into the peaks on your rod bearings. Modern synthetic oil tries to build a liquid cushion between those mountains, and to be fair, it does a pretty good job. But when things get hot, or when you're pulling a heavy load up a grade, that liquid film thins out and completely shears away. That's when the friction tears the metal apart. Now, I need to flag something. I'm showing you what I do on my own car, in my own garage with 15 years of experience. If you're not comfortable working on your vehicle, there's zero shame in handing this to a trusted mechanic. This video is here to help you understand what's actually happening, not to pressure anyone into a wrench. And honestly, I used to tell guys not to add anything to their oil. I figured the chemists at the big refineries knew best. I assumed the oil in the bottle was a perfect finished product. Then I started looking at the used oil analysis reports from fleet trucks pushing 400,000 miles. I was wrong, and I'll show you why. The receipts don't lie. Every single one of those ultra-high mileage survivors had one thing in common: a massive, undeniable spike in molybdenum on their lab reports. So far, we've talked about the morning dry start wear, the danger of choking your oil filter with raw powder. But here's the hidden variable the industry comparison completely ignores. When you pour in a properly formulated liquid suspension of MOS2, those microscopic gray flakes don't just float around in the dark. They find those jagged metal valleys I talked about earlier, and they physically bond to the surface under extreme heat and pressure. They fill in the craters. They plate the bare metal with a permanent sacrificial layer of solid lubrication. If the liquid oil shears away, the metal doesn't scrape metal anymore. Molybdenum slides smoothly on molybdenum.
You know what? I just realized this explains why so many guys complain about their gas mileage slowly dropping off a cliff after 70,000 miles. As those cylinder walls get scored and scratched over the years, the piston rings stop sealing tightly against the block. You start losing compression. Fuel vapor blows past the rings and straight down into the oil pan. You can actually smell it on the dipstick, a faint gasoline smell. That smell is your engine's lifespan being shortened one short trip at a time. The friction modifier seals those microscopic scratches back up. The rings seat perfectly again. The lost compression actually comes back. I had a guy come in with a 2011 Silverado, 340,000 miles on it, running perfectly smooth. I asked him what he did. You know what he said? Just as one thing. Every 5,000 miles, he ignored the manufacturer's extended drain interval, changed the oil himself, and added a specific German brand of liquid moly suspension. That's it. At today's parts prices, a replacement motor for that truck costs about the same as a nice used Honda Civic. I'm not exaggerating. He avoided all of that massive expense for about $15 in oil change. I was going to skip over the chemistry part, but honestly, if you don't understand this, the rest of the video won't hit the same. You can't just blindly dump this into any block.
A lot of modern, top-tier synthetics already contain a liquid-soluble version of molybdenum called MODTC. If you overload an engine that already has a high moly oil with an aftermarket solid moly suspension, the chemicals literally start fighting each other for surface area on the metal. They crowd out the critical zinc additives. They compete for the exact same microscopic bonding sites. And the cost of ignoring this balance is, honestly, higher than most people realize. You end up creating a toxic chemical environment that accelerates wear instead of stopping it. This is exactly why you see guys on the car forums swearing that friction modifiers ruin their variable valve timing solenoids. They didn't understand the chemistry of what was already inside their oil pan. They just poured it in and hoped for the best. The hard evidence shows that if you match a standard low moly synthetic with a high-quality solid suspension, you get the absolute lowest wear numbers physically possible in a combustion engine. But getting that elusive 500,000-mile lifespan, that requires dealing with the one critical component inside your engine that molybdenum can't protect, and the major dealership networks are making an absolute fortune replacing it.